to Glenlarvan, and we are just finishing off fertilizing the sugar beets. Not too much to go, but had to wait for the rain to pass over, and then we're going to do some contracting because that's kind of what there is left to do, I think, until our grass field is ready to cut. We don't really have anything to do other than taking care of the cows, and I'm still thinking that we're probably short of feed, so definitely worth picking up some excess bales, which we'll get if we do some baling contracts, and we'll get some cash, so if we need to, we could buy feed in. Really don't want to do that. Asked in the last video about whether we use the money to pay off the loan or whether you use it to buy land, and I had both answers. So I think probably I'm kind of thinking that we might need to buy another field to increase the amount of grass that we have, and if we end up with an excess of feed, we can just sell it and use that excess cash to pay off the loan. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And we're going to be going and mowing a field for a contract that might be a good candidate, though obviously having just mowed it might be worth holding off buying it until the grass has regrown, although we will probably need to fertilize it and lime it stuff, so maybe not. I hadn't really thought about that when I took on all the contracts, but you know, I don't want to buy a field that's got another crop in it, because then we'll have to replant with grass. So at least if the grass is there, it's going to grow. So yeah, so we'll get the sprayer back to the yard, and yeah, I think that's all of the crops sorted. So we are into June now. We still have plenty of milk to sell as well, and the game is now up on, or has been up, was up over the weekend on the multiplayer server for the patrons, and a couple of guys did get on and help out with some of these contracts as well, which is cool. But I had a whole bunch of issues with lag spikes or whatever, and it seemed to be limited to me, because when I asked Kartek and Mark, they said they weren't having problems, but you'll see I get some really nasty jumping about, and switching to being connected via my mobile phone seemed to sort it, which is really weird because we have really good home internet. So not sure there what was going on, but you can see here it's just kind of fluttery and laggy, and you'll see in a moment there is a pretty epic lag spike which puts me in the middle of the field. So I think that was when I then switched to using my mobile phone hotspot as a connection, so through 5G rather than 500 gig fiber broadband. Yeah, I don't know. Really can't be bothered to call out the technician again to not do very much. We'll see. I'll see if I keep having problems. If I do, I might just message G-Portal and see if there's anything they can do to their end. But yeah, this is it. This is the, see, we are up to a 2-second ping, which is pretty bad. And yeah, that puts us in the middle of the field. So thought I'd leave it in because some of you will probably find it funny. Yeah, so this field 6, this is the field that I was thinking of picking up. I have no idea what it costs, but it's pretty big and kind of adjacent to our farm. That's our grass pasture in front of us. Got a lot of bales off of it. Obviously it's now mown, which is less good, but as I say, we probably need to lime it and fertilize it anyway, so you know, maybe it's a good point to buy it. We've got paid to mow it and bale it, and we've got some excess bales off it, so I'm not sure exactly how many excess bales we got. I'm not actually sure if the excess bales are still in the field or not. I haven't checked, so I know we'll see later on the guys finished off the 3 contracts. So there's this field, there's field 11, and I think there's field 78, which is a bit further away. I know the guys finished the contracts. I don't know if they cleared the excess bales and got them back to the yard or not. To be honest, they did me an awesome job by clearing at least one field full of a lot of bales. So, you know, yeah. Monday morning. Hopefully this video is going to come out Monday afternoon if I can get it rendered and uploaded before I have to leave on a work trip. So I'm away for like 2.5 days with work again, so kind of sucks. Yeah, did a bunch of work on the side panel over the weekend. The woodwork is now done. Yes, some of it is a little bit scruffy. I have quite limited tools, and so I'm doing it with what I can and making mistakes, which is a bit, which is causing some of the messiness. What day was it? On Saturday, I glued some side rails on so that I can screw the base in, and they completely covered the hole that I'd cut in the side for the switch that I wanted to put in. So I had to kind of recarve that hole with a Stanley knife, and so yes, it's very messy. I actually found afterwards a small chisel, which would have been a lot better for the job, but work with what you've got, and I'm pretty happy with it. So I did a bunch of filling yesterday and then sanded all that down, and was actually ready to paint it on Sunday evening, and opened up the can of spray paint that I brought to find that it was missing a spray nozzle, which is kind of important. So yeah, got a refund from Amazon for that, which is cool, and have reordered it. There was a couple of reviews that had the same problem. You take the lid off the can and there's just the pointy up plastic bit. So not a huge problem, because I was going to be starting it quite late, so I wouldn't have got it finished. So, but once it's sprayed, I then just need to wire it all up, and it'll be good to go. So, got the plan in my head for how I'm going to wire it all up. So, yeah, hopefully it then works, because it'll be really cool if it does. I'm quite looking forward to it. It's I'm not sure how I'm going to work with it. Because I use a mouse for quite a bit in game, obviously moving the camera around, setting up courseplay, things like that. So I'm still going to need a mouse actually, but I might be that I move to using the thumbstick for view control and just use the mouse when I really need to. So we'll see. It might be that I finish making it and use it for a couple of weeks and it goes back in the drawer. We'll see. It's for me, it's been about the building process. I was chatting to my dad last night about boats and stuff, and we somehow got on to the boats that he built, and he was saying about how I grew up around woodwork and am I still any good at it? And it's like, well, as you happen to say, so yeah, it's not to the standards that he would have done. He's very good at woodwork, and he had a very well equipped set or shed. If he needed the tools, he brought them, because he was working on something that took him, I think it took him 10 years to build the last one. So in the end, I think he brought a table saw in the end, because he brought a lot of the wood unmilled, because it was a lot cheaper, and he had access to a wood workshop at the start of the process. So we used that and milled the lumber down and stuff into the many sizes that he needed, but then lost access to that. So he ended up having his own table saw, which I thought was so cool, which he modded, as you do. It came from an industrial site which used 3-phase mains power, and he had it all in our back garden at home, so it was 2-phase. So he reworked it and took the electric motor out, put a 2-phase electric motor in and stuff. Yeah, it's kind of his day job. He was an electronics engineer, and I do mean engineer. He ended up doing more kind of maintenance and managing technicians, but he was original electronics engineer. He did design and test stuff. So yeah, we are on to, well, I've done the tedding, so I tedded it straight to hay because it's a contract rather than doing what I would normally do and waiting overnight. And we're now getting it all rowed up. So yeah, it's going to be quite a lot of bales. So I've worked out, using better contracts, that we need to deliver 51 8,000 litre bales. So I'm guessing we're going to probably get between 10 and 20 spare bales. Something like that is my guess. We'll see in the next video, because by then I will have gotten back to the farm if the guys haven't already. I've been doing field 78 with courseplay. So far I've got field 6 and 11 mowed, tedded and windrowed, and I'm going to start doing the baling. I hadn't actually planned to do all of this myself. I set them up with the intent that I would just leave this on the server all weekend, but I ended up playing on the server for quite a bit on Saturday, and I got all of the fields to the point where they were baled, and I cleared most of this field. So I ended up delivering half of the bales that were needed to complete all the contracts. I just about got 25 bales on the trailer without it looking too dodgy, and we've only got to go down to where the BGA is, or just across the road from the BGA to sell them. You can see it on the map marked with a little exclamation point. So yeah, isn't too far a trip, so not really a problem. And apart from the fact that I'm driving like I've had one too many beers, I really like using this fence still. It's I know it's not necessarily popular with some of the guys that play or played on the server, but I really like it. It does need a bit more power. There are options to add power, so I will do that at some point. Actually, one of the mods that I've been looking at using on Saxthorpe is the chip tuning mod, and that led me down a bit of a rabbit hole of Googling chip tuning tractors, and it doesn't seem that uncommon. You look at it on YouTube all the time, video titles, chipped whatever. So I might go down the route of using that on some things, not on everything, because it kind of gets a bit cheaty. And if you've everything 20% extra power or whatever, or 20 extra horsepower, that's a bit silly. But and actually I wonder if it maybe doesn't capture the benefit of chip tuning, because a lot of chip tuning is about, I think anyway, from I looked at it for a car that I had before, because diesel cars can get quite a lot of power out of being chipped, so I didn't end up doing it. But a lot of it seemed to be about drivability, and you get a lot more low-end power. And to be fair, this tractor could do with a lot more low-end power. So I'm guessing it just scales the torque factor, which is how the game engine does horsepower. It doesn't do actual horsepower. So all those numbers for horsepower you see in the shop and on ModHub and stuff are just numbers people have typed in. They don't necessarily equate to what the tractor has in game, depending on how well the person creating the mod has set it up. So there's a really cool spreadsheet actually to do the calculations that someone set up for FS 19, and I think it's the same for 22. But yeah, I'm guessing that the chip tuning mod just scales that number rather than changing the shape of the torque curve. So I might go in and manually throttle some of them and pay for the tuning effect and maintenance or something. Because from what I've read, again, if you chip a tractor, you're going to be doing it with maintenance on it. So, which makes sense. You're making the engine work harder, you're going to have to look after it a bit more. That's fields 6 and 11 baled. Because it's on multiplayer, I have no idea how many bales we got, because I don't have any of the DLCs that add bale counters running. So that means people don't have to have the DLCs to join. If you are interested in joining, then you need to be a member of the £5 tier on Patreon. So I'm just looking for a pen, and that gets you access. It's not a server that's active all of the time. In fact, it's a server that's active not very often at the moment. Usually over the weekends I have it up. But yeah, if you're interested, that's how you get access to it. Let's say thank you to the Patreon and the YouTube channel members as well at this point. Appreciate you guys supporting the channel. And yep, we are over at field 78 now, which is a pretty big field actually. I have no idea how many bales we got off here either, but it's quite a lot. So yep, get this baled up as well, and then we will get the rest cleared. So I had planned to run this on courseplay as well, but like an idiot, I cleared the courseplay course from the tractor with the windrowing. So in the end, I actually managed to get the course set up again, and the replication worked pretty well. I don't think it missed too much. Yeah, but yeah. So you might be asking, why am I using courseplay to do contracts when the the multiplayer could do it. There are a lot of grass working contracts, so I wanted to get some done to get some extra feed and some cash in case I have to buy more feed. So there are no shortage of grass working contracts, and probably maybe do some silage ones next so that we get some silage bales, and yeah, just help with our feed supply until we get more established. Just trying to think when the years that we farmed on Maypole, we had a very big grass pasture, and I think that's probably why we were in a better situation. And actually, I think next month we'll be able to cut the wheat for whole crop silage, so that will help out. Actually, between that and the hay bales, maybe we'll be okay. We will see. So thankfully, even though being on the server, this bale fork seems pretty good, I think, and the bales behaved pretty well. And I was able to load this trailer without any issues, really. I don't even think, I think maybe I knocked over one set of bales, and it wasn't even a full stack. I think it was just one bale. There was a bale that I dropped where I dropped two on top of each other, and that one I think was the only one that went wrong. I tried to be a bit slower and more methodical, and guess what? It paid off. So I've been watching a bunch of, I think I might have spoken about it, a bunch of woodworking videos by a guy called John Malecki. Yes, I have spoken about it. And he has a couple of random sayings, and actually it's a saying that comes from the Special Forces, I believe. That's where I first heard it anyway, which is slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And it's kind of the same here, you know, work a bit slower, but you make less mistakes, and therefore you get the job done quicker. Kind of, I guess if you don't think about it properly, it's kind of counterintuitive, but actually it makes sense, you know. Go a little bit slower, don't make mistakes, because correcting mistakes takes a long time. And if you go fast, generally, good chance you'll make a mistake. So I kind of like that one. I don't always listen to it, obviously. But yeah, as I said about in a recent video, some of it is just about having fun. It's a game, so sometimes I do go fast and you make mistakes and you get really frustrated then because you have to fix them. But sometimes fixing mistakes in games is where the fun is. So I used to play a game called Stormworks. I haven't played it in a long time. It's kind of deviated from what I enjoyed about it. Going into space soon, so yeah, it's gone a long way from what I enjoyed the last time I played it. The mission system, which I used to like, had become very repetitive. Basically there seem to be two mission types rather than there used to be a lot. And so fixing your mistakes, I played it for a long time as the only game I played, and I got to the point where I had part of the game is there are oil rigs where you can go and buy oil and you take them to a refinery and refine them into fuel, and you can make loads of money. And I had, I think, a fleet of 2 or 3 oil tankers that were pretty much capable of sitting. It takes a really long time to pump fluid in that game, or it did. Not so much now, I don't think, but it used to. And so I had 2 oil tankers that I could just leave sat moored next to these oil rigs, and they would slowly fill with oil. And I'm not entirely sure what happened, but I went back to one of them and it had sunk, and it was in very deep water. And there's no, there's no super strength like in farm. You can't just pick it up. So I did end up doing some, there are some cheatings you can do. You need, obviously, their boats, they need power and stuff. And I think I ended up switching on infinite electricity. But I designed and built and used a boat to go and pick up the sunken oil tanker. I think I first had to, because it was full of oil, it was very heavy, so I think first I had to pump all the oil out to make it a bit lighter. That didn't do what you would think. It didn't fill the tank with air so it would float. I know. But then I built a ship which could sit over the top of it and winch it up. So I built a big catamaran that basically would lift the oil tank up, so it was mostly out of the water, and drive it to a repair dock so we could recover it. So long. I think it took me about 2 weeks to do, but it was a really cool challenge, and yeah, I loved it. It was great. So sometimes fixing your mistakes is fun in games. But, you know, when it's just you knock over a big stack of bales, it's not fun. That's no fun for anyone. Now, on a lot of saves, you might just grab an auto-load trailer or a bale stacker, restack them. But on here, we're doing it all manually. So until the, not August that's coming, but the August after, once we get to the August after, I'm going to allow things like the Arcusin. But until then, everything's manual bale stacking. So if you knock over a big stack of bales, it's a lot of work. Yeah. So I think we are close to full. You can see there's a decent number of bales left in this field still, and all of the bales in field 11. And this is going to be about half of the bales we need to deliver, well, once the trailer's full. So I want to push these forward so I can get a snack on the back. That gives us 21 bales on the trailer, and then we're going to try and just jam another. I think I put 4 more on top. So it's yeah, and probably you wouldn't go more than 3 high, really. But we're not even going on, well, we are sort of going on. I didn't think at this point we were going to be going on a public road, because I thought the sell point was in the same complex as the BGA. It's not, but we're going to go about 5 feet on a public road. So hopefully no one from the Vehicle Standards Agency or the police are around as we do that. But yeah, we're going to go grab a couple more bales, get them on top of the stacks, and then we'll go get this delivered. So I think I put 2 in the middle of, and we'll put these 2 on the end. Course play is almost done with baling the other field as well. So I'm not going to deliver the bales until course play is done, just in case it completes that contract, because then we'll be screwed. If it completes once we've done that, we can still pick the bales up, that's fine. But if it completes whilst we're trying to bale still, that's a problem. And it can, because grass working contracts in FS count 2 things. They count grass mown, that's 20% of the contract, and bales delivered, that's 80% of the contract. So the steps in between don't count. So you know, tedding, windrowing, baling, wrapping, all of those don't count. So you can get into a position, in fact I did on Maypole, where I delivered bales while I was working on a bunch of grass work contracts, and one that I hadn't yet finished baling completed. So yeah, just bear that in mind. And you could get that even if you hadn't mowed it. If you delivered bales and they went against that field, and then you went and mowed it before you'd even, you know, thought about windrowing or whatever, it would complete the contract. So yeah, be careful. And I think that can happen in base game as well, because you can have 3 active contracts. So it's not just because I'm on PC and using better contracts. That could happen on console. So, you know, just I'm sure most of you guys know, but yeah, just be careful. So there was occasionally getting the odd random, you know, like you just saw the boom going all the way up. I think that's because of my multiplayer. I let go of the button and the boom keeps moving. But then sometimes it happens in single player as well, so maybe it's just FS. But yeah, we've got our, I'm just trying to think, I might have delivered more than I thought. Oh well. We've got a decent number of bales. Yeah, I think I had 27 bales on here rather than 25. I can't count clearly, but it got a bunch of the contract completed, which is kind of what the goal was. So I don't think that's too dodgily loaded. I've seen worse. I've loaded worse. I think we've had these trailers where they are completely 5 high, or maybe more, because I think we've gone above the strap height. And these are strapping to 5 high. We might have gone 6 high. Yeah. So taking it nice and steady, because we're quite heavily loaded. 216,000 litres of hay. So yeah, just keeping it at sort of 12 miles an hour. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast, remember. I should live by that much more often. The number of times I've been, you know, we had it a lot on, I used to have a multiplayer on Calmsden for a bit. and people hammering around and crashing into stuff and getting stuck. Kata, if you're still watching. Not seen you back a while, so I know life's been a bit rough. So, anywho, let's get these delivered. So yeah, this should be well over half of what we need to deliver for all 3 contracts. Which is why I've made sure that all of the mowing and baling is done first. Because you can see we are going against field 78, even though the bales came off a different field, because the game doesn't know and doesn't care. They're all hay bales, so annoyingly some fell out of the trigger, so going to bring the Merlot over to shuffle those about. And then we'll go over to, well, I'll send the kit over to field 78, and the guys from D&S Agri ended up stacking all of those bales for me, and Kartek grabbed some video, so you get to see some of it. He didn't send over any of the clips of him crashing because of his controller, apparently. But Mark did stick a picture on Discord. Because we're friends like that, you know? We help each other out. So yeah, that's most of all of field 78 done and most of field 11 delivered. So we should get a pretty hefty amount of spare bales, assuming the guys didn't just sell them all. I'm not sure. I haven't checked. So, yeah, here we are. A little bit of work. Kartek is in the Merlot, and Mark is driving the tractor. So yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, click the like button. Comments, questions, or suggestions, stick them below. You can see the guys do have a process for getting bales loaded up, and they did finish all 3 contracts. So it's going to be about over 30 grand, which is really nice. So, yeah. See you next time on Glenlarvan.